Welcome to Pushing the Limits, the show that helps you reach your full potential, with your host, Lisa Tamati. Brought to you by lisatamati.com.
Everyone, welcome back to Pushing the Limits. This week, I have my favorite doctor, Dr. Elizabeth Yurth. Now, Dr. Elizabeth Yurth is from the Boulder Longevity Institute in Colorado in the USA. She is a longevity expert. She is also an orthopedic surgeon, an orthopedic specialist, and today's topic is arthritis and everything around arthritis. And arthritis is a disease process. This is a really new way of looking at arthritis, and you're going to find a whole lot of value in this. I actually have spermidine in my shop. I've got a few little, I've got a small amount, and it's very expensive, unfortunately.
It's super expensive. And that's, again, it is, like you said, Lisa, it's one of the hard things. So, when you're looking at these supplements, what is the most important? And what I'll do lots of times with spermidine is I won't have people just stay on it forever. I'll have them do a pretty high dose for a few months. Epigallocatechins are not horribly expensive, so you can kind of go to that.
Yeah.
And then, the other supplement, which a lot of people haven't heard a lot about, is, actually a sugar called trehalose or trehalose.
Yeah, trehalose. I've got that
trehalose
now.
Trehalose is kind of amazing, right?
Yeah.
And so, when we look at trehalose, it really impacts oxidative stress, and it helps sort of clean up of the cells as well. So it's and here's a supplement. It's basically a sugar. It's 2 glucose molecules, but has 0 glycemic impact. And in fact, it actually helps with our diabetics to keep blood glucose under control. That in of itself is probably helpful to joint pain as well. But it's been really looked at for neurodegenerative diseases. In fact, a drug form of it, a very expensive drug form of it, is being investigated for both MS and ALS because it has neuropreparative, but it appears to also have joint reparative. Wow. So it was a great study that they did out of China in mice, where they went and they damaged the cartilage to the joint, and they put one mouse on trehalose, the other mice not. And if the mouse was taking trehalose, they saw 0, even if they went and pounded holes in the cartilage, they saw 0 progression into arthritis.
Wow.
So here's something that's super joint protective for those of you who have injuries or are doing kind of repetitive trauma activities, right? Like running super high levels or doing sports that are really, hard on joints. Here's something that you can do. So I use trehalose basically as a sweetener for everything. I put it in, I put it in my coffee. I cook with it, right? It's one of those things where more is better, and it's benign, it has 0 bad sides to it. It's a sugar, which is nice because you can substitute, any sweetener.
And yet it's got no glycemic impact.
It's got all these huge, 0 glycemic impact. In fact, it controls blood glucose release.
Wow.
So, I have a really just genetically, like my mom was very fit and active but she was a type 2 diabetic, even eating healthy. I was always raised eating healthy and exercising. She was a type 2 diabetic, which ultimately I think probably was her demise to her brain. And I have a similarly hard to control glucose. Like, I use my CGM. It's just hard to control glucose. And it's interesting how much of a difference trehalose makes for me in terms of just keeping my blood glucose rock solid stable if I use it really consistently. I have a patient who is a great cook. She makes me cookies with it. Here's a cookie that you can eat. She just makes it with, it's gluten-free, really healthy cookie that's sweetened with nothing but trehalose. So I can eat the cookie and have my blood glucose actually go down.
Wow. Get some of that. I mean, I'm on trehalose since I listened to one of your lectures, and I'm like, okay, getting that. And Mum's on that too now. And I have it sort of 3 times a day. And it's exactly, like 3 times a day. All upsides.
Sort of kind of all upsides. Exactly. So, and then there's always, things like, some peptide therapies too. Collagen peptides, simple, inexpensive, but collagen peptides, and people are always like, well, collagen peptides aren't all that beneficial. They actually are. Mixed with some vitamin C, you do see actually benefits to cartilage, to cartilage cells. So
this is a drink one or an injection one?
You can do a powdered collagen drink. Just put the powdered collagen in your drink, and do it. We like a collagen peptide called Fortigel, which is a sort of trademarked collagen peptide. And there's a couple of brands that contain Fortigel, but I would look for the Fortigel. It's a trademark type of collagen peptide. And there's a couple of brands. If you Google Fortigel, there's a couple of brands that use Fortigel. And ideally, if it has some vitamin C in it too, that combination of vitamin C and the Fortigel together. They did a study with it, plus double-blind, placebo-controlled study with just collagen, and ranked knee pain, walking distance, and universally 90% of people did better just with collagen. So that's a really simple, easy thing too, that you can sort of add a little scoop of a collagen peptide, do that every single day. And then other kind of more expensive, aggressive peptides like BPC, or body protective compound 157.
157, yep.
BPC 157, especially combined with a thymic peptide called thymosin beta 4. That combination is also very helpful for joint regeneration. But I would tell you that those are add-ons. Those people who are just going and trying to treat their arthritis with these expensive peptides are probably neglecting the inflammatory piece a lot, and they're trying to get into this reparative mode when they haven't really addressed all the other problems going on.
Yep.
Right. Yeah. So again, get the inflammatory stuff under control, and then you can kind of add those in for benefit and for regeneration as at that point. So if I get, our patients, we're going to always get all this inflammatory stuff under control. Before I do any, and I do a lot of regenerative therapies on my patients, but those patients who come in and want me to just, do stem cells, like it's stupid. It's a waste of your money until we get all this other stuff under control.
Yeah.
But how often do you see that? There are so many stem cell regenerative orthopedic places around, and and people are going there, and they spent $5,000, $10,000. I saw a patient who literally spent $30,000, for this sort of all over stem cell. I mean, literally, this doctor injected stem cells into almost every joint in her body, and I'm like, okay, well, when every joint in your body was bad, did you think maybe there was something else going on?
Something, systemic. Hello.
But
again, go back. I think everything. That's what I've learned from you and from my studies over the last years is go back up the tree, and then you'll hit all of the diseases.
Right.
Mitochondria, inflammation.
It's all the same disease.
Yeah.
What we know is this inflammaging process, and it's affecting. You can go every single disease is overaggressive pro-inflammatory cytokines, disruption in mitochondrial function, disruption in autophagy. Every single disease is aging, and so the immune system goes awry. It's a dysfunction of our immune system, and our immune system goes awry for a lot of reasons. One is just age in of itself creates, but that's a result of viral exposures, for instance, right? That you get
viruses
exposed,
make you
Epstein-Barr virus or COVID or CMV or herpes viruses. We've all been exposed to these viruses, which stress our immune system. A lot of them stick around, but even those exposures, it's like Epstein-Barr virus, very linked to lymphomas and leukemia.
Yep, that's why Mum's got
why,
it.
Right? Because so and yet
got the EBV.
we're like, oh, everybody gets Epstein-Barr virus. Well, sometimes it becomes sort of a latent virus that's continuing to create problems. Or we've linked herpes simplex virus 6 to dementias. These viruses are not just benign entities. So we need to get more aggressive at helping the immune system, focusing on eradicating viruses, and getting the immune system as healthy as possible to fight cancers and all these other diseases.
So it's like putting antivirals into the mix occasionally, or
I do. I use a fair number of antivirals, honestly.
Just to make sure we're not
right. I think there's very little downside sometimes. Exactly. If you've got these latent viruses, and we'll run viral scans on people a lot too, but if you've got these latent viruses that are sitting around doing, stressing our immune systems, it's one of the big worries with COVID is that it doesn't just go away. The spike protein doesn't just go away. So it's continuing to create this, this response.
Ongoing. So what sort of antivirals are there, and are there any natural ones, and what couple of the drugs that you might ask your doctor for?
Well, so epigallocatechin has some antiviral properties. It's where the penicillin is nice because it has the antiviral properties. Things like curcumin has some nice antiviral properties as well. So those are kind of natural ways. Honestly, I will do a fair amount of using valcyclovir in people because it's sort of a very safe, we use it for primarily for herpes virus, but it actually has, if you look at its viral spectrum, it actually has some benefits across the board, even with Epstein-Barr, has some, some antiviral benefits. So I'll put a lot of my patients on an extended course of valcyclovir if they have these immune systems. There's little things we can look for in just a complete blood count, for instance, that say, yeah, this is a stressed immune system. The lymphocytes are low, the neutrophils are high, the monocytes are high. Those are all things that say, we really have a stressed immune system. And we do have a kind of a low threshold to put some of those patients on viral therapies. Again, the hope would be we could find some great antiviral that treats all these viruses, but probably that's,
dreaming. Yeah.
That's dreaming. Yeah. But again, that's where penicillin, if you start looking at, it's really hard to treat viruses. Yep. We don't have Ross River virus, but I think you guys do. Australia does, which is a virus that when you get induced to it, initiates this horrible progressive arthritis. So does dengue fever, those kinds of things.
Yeah.
Great. So there's a link between viruses and arthritis as well. So I do have a kind of a low threshold to use antiviral agents to help the immune system a little bit, right?
So you don't develop these things later on.
Yeah. And you've got to look at hormones too, right? Because hormones have huge immune modulating properties. Testosterone is very immune modulating. Progesterone is very immune modulating. So that's another reason as we age, our immune systems start to go awry, is because we don't have hormones anymore unless you're replacing them. Yep. So that has to be put into the mix too if we're going to do that. So this whole, again, be it cancer, be it metabolic disease, be it cardiovascular disease, be it neurologic, arthritis, they are all the same disease. And you've got to get the immune system healthy as possible. You have to stop oxidative stress, and again, all the stuff you preach all the time with diet and appropriate exercise, not too much exercise, right?
Not too much, yeah.
That stresses the immune system.
Yeah. It's just keeping that balance. And what about some of the growth factors? A growth factor is good. So like if you've got a lot of human growth hormone, or you're if you've got lots of testosterone and lots of what's the other one? Insulin-like growth factors and things, are they going to impact the joint negatively when you're growing all the time? Like this is where the autophagy piece comes in. No.
So we used to, back in the old days, actually, there was a lot of studies injecting growth hormone in joints, and it was super, super beneficial to the joint to inject growth hormone to the joint. There was a doc who was doing a ton of it, and that became really hard to get growth hormone. Yep. But we will still actually inject IGF sometimes into joints, intra-articularly, with significant benefits in helping people with inflammation. So IGF is beneficial. There's, like all growth factors, there's a balance. We know that, for instance, too much transforming growth factor, TGF, beta, is not good, right? So there's kind of this balance. You need to have sort of like too much is bad, too little is bad. So that's what you always have to look at when you're inducing things. But when you look at growth factors, it's one of the ways stem cells are working. They contain tons of growth factors. They're modulatory in that they usually don't overshoot. So again, if you overhit IGF, if you push remember, growth hormone induces insulin-like growth factor. That's how we get IGF. Is growth hormone tells our liver to produce IGF. IGF goes everywhere. It has great properties. It's immune modulating. It helps with pain. It helps with deep sleep. But if you get too high, too much growth, it's bad. Then you lead to cancers and things like that. So there's always this balance. There's
always this Goldilocks thing.
Right. There's always this kind of like not doing too much of something to get that balance. And, and that's where you have to be a little careful with just, like what some of the people who are doing just massive growth hormone injections and things like that. Using peptides to modulate growth hormone can be a lot safer, because you usually aren't going to get these huge escalating levels. You get this nice kind of balance. And then what you want for most growth factors is you want them to kind of go up and down. You don't want them continuously turned on. So, there is some research actually showing using, blockers of some growth factors can be helpful in arthritis, when they're very upregulated. So it really is this kind of, for those of you who are doing, like saying, I'm just going to keep taking more CJC and ipamorelin, which are increasing, growth hormone release and increasing IGF. Well, you want to make sure that, there is a too much, and what's usually best is to kind of cycle things, bringing them up, bringing them down, bringing them up, bringing them down. That's why, fasting really lowers IGF, right? So it's not really the really low IGF that's beneficial. It's the rebound after you stop fasting that you get this rebound IGF. That's actually where the benefit of repair comes from, is the refeed after fasting. So fasting induces autophagy, which is great, but it's not really particularly beneficial for regeneration. What's beneficial for regeneration is the rebound when you refeed. That's why the refeed to fasting is as important as the fast itself.
Wow.
So those are all,
but fasting is another big piece in which we didn't cover. It is an important part of either intermittent fasting or longer fast, if under the guidance of your doctor if you're doing a longer one. But it can be very beneficial to clear out these old senescent cells, these zombie cells, and start this process. And then there are also senolytics, which we can put in the mix too.
Right. True. Yeah. So, fasting, cheapest way to induce autophagy. If you look at things like spermidine, pricey. Not eating is actually, so spermidine is a fasting mimetic. It actually tricks your body into thinking you're fasting in a sense, but it's a lot cheaper to just not eat, right? That's actually less expensive than anything you can do, right? But it's also, it's tough, right? It's tough for a lot of people to fast. And again, one of the questions is, how long do you truly have to fast? We don't know the answer to that. Definitely I try and get all my patients to at least time restrict their eating, because we know that has benefit. To eat within a smaller window has benefits, and then you're right, we use a lot of senolytic agents too, like rapamycin, because rapamycin's a drug. It's an old chemotherapeutic drug, but it's actually not a great chemotherapeutic agent, but it's a very good immune modulating agent. And we know that rapamycin induces autophagy. It extends lifespan in every mammalian species.
But how does rapamycin be? Because I've always heard, you don't go rapamycin because it's immune, can damage your immune system. Not the case?
Not the case. Kind of, it's the unfortunate sort of reputation rapamycin got because it started as a chemotherapeutic agent. Yeah. But if it's used in smaller amounts and not on a regular basis, it's immune modulated. It's not immunosuppressive. And again, remember, you don't stay on rapamycin continuously. You use it for a short period. We'll do 1 day a week. Basically, you'll take rapamycin just 1 day out of every week, or some people will do a protocol where they do 1 week out of every month. Mikhail Blagosklanny, who's probably the best researcher and the most knowledgeable person who's out of Russia, on rapamycin. He sort of believes in a little higher dose for like a week at a time. Mm-hmm. We're a little more conservative with it, but we do one day a week out of every, or 1 day out of every week, just a small dose. So you use it basically because the goal, again, you don't want to keep suppressing. We want to, it's, to me, it's like cleaning house, right? If you don't ever accumulate any stuff, you're probably not living very well. So you're going to accumulate some stuff, but then you got to get rid of it, or you become a hoarder. Yeah. So that's what rapamycin does. It's like clean out. Okay, now I can regrow, clean out. So basically, like what we do a lot of is just 1 day a week, and rapamycin has some huge benefits. We know from a longevity perspective, it may be one of the the best longevity drugs we have. Wow. But there's some great studies on it with arthritis. There's some great studies on it from cardiovascular and brain. So again, all those age-related diseases. So I will lots of times, and again, there's little things I'll look at in people's labs that will cue me in to say, hey, this is a person who I have to get more aggressive with autophagy, and I'll use things like rapamycin. So rapamycin is probably the penultimate senolytic agent that's out there. And again, the studies are going on right now for humans. Humans are hard because we live a long time, so it's much easier to study other animals. Yeah. But the dog studies are really compelling. Wow. I mean, I have more patients who are buying rapamycin for their dogs than themselves. Everybody wants their dogs to live forever.
I want some rapamycin.
But it's the dog studies are pretty compelling. These dogs are living a third longer than other dogs, so it's, there's not a mammalian species that has not responded to rapamycin. So
does it work with against cancer, or is it anti-cancer, or is it sort of
it definitely has some anti-cancer properties, definly.
All right, we need some for Mum, please. Can you give me some for Mum?
I mean, certainly, again, it's one of those things where the research is ongoing. We can't, we don't have the definitive. I think the hardest thing to know is what is the right dose. I don't think that there's a question that it has benefits from longevity. I think the question is, are we doing enough? We tend to kind of err to the side of conservative, and we're basing our stuff off some of the animal studies. and maybe what we're doing is not enough.
It's too low enough.
We're going pretty conservative on it, but the research is compelling, and it's and expanding on all the benefits of it really is pretty huge. And probably, Blagas Glani says you should start it around age 25. Honestly.
Wow.
You should start it pretty young, because that's when you actually start accumulating damage, right? So could we actually, if we started everybody, the goal is going to be, honestly, Lisa, is that the problem is that people who are listening to us tend to be 40s plus, right?
Yeah.
And if we need to start getting
we need to hurry up
20-year-olds, right? We need to get the 20-year-olds to start thinking this way. It's like my kids are, I have 5 kids, but I've got 3 now in their 20s, and they're very much thinking along this line, but and they're trying to sort of teach their friends. My daughter, who's like 26, is trying to put together a podcast for that younger group.
Wow.
Because they're not they're not listening to you and I very much, right?
No.
20-year-old.
They never do. And Metformin is another one that I'm like swear by for a lot.
I forgot Metformin, but Metformin has some really interesting studies in arthritis too. Very compelling studies in arthritis as well. So it's not just in its senolytic properties, but directly on some of its effect actually on cartilage. So the studies on Metformin as an anti-arthritic drug were super interesting. So that's another again very safe drug that has cardiovascular protection. Again, overlap, like renal protection, cancer protection, obesity protection. The big question in Metformin is does it impede muscle growth, right? That's the big, because it's an mTOR inhibitor. Is it is it too much muscle growth, right? And what I do with Metformin is I love Metformin. I take Metformin, but I cycle off of it, and I cycle off of it periodically. So I think the key there is maybe cycling it a little bit.
But like the rapamycin.
I know a lot of anti-aging docs that said, they kind of abandoned Metformin. I still think it's a really good drug and inexpensive. I'm
on it. I've got my family on it.
And I have not noticed really, I've got
I've still got good muscles.
Right.
I haven't noticed that.
Not noticed a big,
I think you have to work harder, maybe.
Maybe. I mean, I think you do have to exercise a little bit more. I don't know. But I think its other health benefits are so incredibly compelling.
And sugar, insulin resistance, and all that.
Keeping glucose controlled. So and it's you talked about inexpensive.
It's
a very inexpensive drug. I think comparatively to things like like rapamycin and stuff. So I do. I mean, I include it when I give this talk on arthritis. There's a study that came out in 2020 that it said there was evidence that was significant benefit for osteoarthritis and preventing cartilage degeneration, but also in pain. It seemed to really help pain. So I think again, here's if you go to your doc and you ask them for Metformin for your joint pain, they're going to be like, you're crazy. But if you can compel a doctor to give you a prescription for it
because you're pre-diabetic or something, you'll get it.
Right.
Or if you've got a good doctor that's actually up on the research of Metformin.
But if you Google Metformin and osteoarthritis, there's a couple of great studies that come out that show it marked improvement. Like in mice, they would damage the joint. The mice would be limping around. They put them on Metformin and they would stop limping. So we know it has these great anti-inflammatory benefits as well.
Yeah, I swear by it. I'm a big fan of that. Dr. Yurth, you've been so generous with your time today. Thank you. It's been a really interesting episode, and I think one that's going to help so many people, lots of athletes and lots of people dealing with arthritis and understanding those whole disease processes. And that's what we've talked about on a number of times on this podcast, is sort of going to get people to understand that whole go back up the ladder, go back up and see what's causing
what's
all of
wrong
these.
with causing the problem, right? Not just treating the problem.
Yeah. It's just gold. And I would like people to go and check out Dr. Yurth's Boulder Longevity Institute if everyone wants to get under Dr. Yurth and her team there. Highly recommend it. I have Mum under there, and that's been absolutely game-changing for me, for us. But also your longevity, your
yes, we have an academy, right? You guys be able to learn this stuff and listen to this stuff, because you guys, Lisa's teaching you. You guys have got to learn this stuff because your doctors don't know it. So that's what we realized we weren't making headway in trying to teach doctors. So we just go right to the consumer, to
the ones who need it.
So yeah,
Let's
so
go.
if you join bli.academy, if you go to bli.academy and you join that academy, there's some free content on there, and there's some paid content. But we try and put together lectures every month to teach you more like we would teach doctors, sharing literature, those kinds of things. So not just, the problem with a lot of podcasters and people are doing this, and you not, but a lot of them are trying to sell something, right? A lot of times people are trying to sell things. We're trying to just give you science, not sell anything, and just share with you information and help you digest it. So go to that. I try on my Instagram at Dr. Yurth to share cool studies that come up, and just put little tidbits about them there so you guys can go look at the studies. But I try and keep an eye on cool studies that you guys can look at too. But the key is you guys have to learn like physicians should learn, which is from the science that's out there, and then make decisions based on that, not on somebody just saying, hey, this is a good thing to do.
And go and if you do listen to podcasts and things, go and do your own research. It's a bit like, because you have to actually go and look at the studies yourself. And even if you're not well versed in that, do a little bit more background, because for you it might not be appropriate. And this is why this is not medical advice, and this is only for education and entertainment, but it does put you on the right path to understanding stuff, and then going to your doctor and maybe taking some of the studies with you and going, hey, can I get this? Is this something that would help me? And it opens their minds too often. And that, that's slowly happening.
Now, I learned tons from my patients. Boy, my COVID long haul patients have taught me so much, because this is a tough disease, and a lot of them are doing tons of research, and they're like, hey, I just learned about this cool thing. Can we try it? I'm like, yeah, it looks really cool. And then I start learning about it, So I learn a ton from my patients. If you have a good doctor, they will appreciate you helping teach them.
Yes, and not the other way around.
Right?
It's really got to be this two-way co-learning. Co-learning is the word. Dr. Yurth, thank you so much today. We'll put all those links. And I hope that you're having a good time over there in Boulder. Everything okay now after?
I'm waiting for spring. It's still cold and snowy here, but
we're coming to the end of summer, so that's also good. All right, Dr. Yurth, thank you so much.
Bye, guys.